Hey, how's it going? Pardon me. Please look at my signs before I get started. So I think I'm gonna ramble today because I don't have a firm thing that I wanted to talk about, but a few things. And I couldn't figure out what is the overlap because usually what I do is collect some things from throughout the day, that I just, whatever I looked at, whoever I talked to, whatever it is, it all becomes a part of something. So I guess, what did I do? Things are really random. God, never say that. Okay, so the first thing I thought I wanted to talk about was some more about the two virgins that I spoke about in my last video, which was in the Bible, Jesus' mother, Mary, was the virgin birth, the virgin mother, right, of him. There were other kids, presumably they were just the regular kind of birth, but I don't know. I don't want to get mired in that, but I was watching some Dolores Cannon hypnotic regression video, and she was relating the story of it's in a series called Jesus and the Essenes, if you ever want to see it yourself. But the particular thing that I wanted to touch on was that in there, when she's in the subject's deep subconscious, it starts going back in time and other lives and things. That's the big deal about the Dolores Cannon hypnotic regressions, I guess, is that you get all this, I don't know, I guess after a while she did expect it, but I imagine the first few times it was what is happening? This person is going, when you do the regression, when I first heard of it, you go back to when you're a child, and then you can talk about the traumas or whatever you're getting hypnotized for. Usually people have a reason for getting regressed. So with her, Dolores Cannon, she discovered that it would go past infancy back, and then that would end up in a different life. And I guess the process just repeats further and further back, regressing to other lives. Is that nuts? I mean, it's cool as hell, but whoa, that's crazy. So she has this woman that's her subject, and she gets in there in her subconscious, and somebody starts talking about how Virgin Mary's grandmother was also a virgin birth. And that was just brand new to me when I heard that. I just don't think I ever heard it in any kind of church religious setting, heard it, read it, anything. That would have to be one of those the gospels that they just didn't let in the book, and so now it's going to start, what I have to say is going to start transitioning into something else, but not everybody was supposed to know that stuff. And I'm just going to make a wild leap here forward into the present, because I feel like nothing is what we think it is. And there are a number of reasons for that, okay? Part of it is just the whole sort of world we live in like, it's real, right? We're here, like, in this dream. If we die, we die. If our lives are not just our lives and there's some kind of dream matrix game thing, like, there's all these names for it, but what it amounts to is this ain't really real. So then that made me start thinking, and I'm gonna come back to that because I don't think I defined yet what that is, but I'm getting to it. So that started me thinking about this show that you can only see now on the Disney Channel because it's not in air. It's not currently running right now. It like ended, and it's called Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And they had this story arc about something called the Framework, and then there was this like AI robot woman called Ava, and she was just evil. God, I loved that show. I was so bummed when it ended. But so Ava created the Framework, and so the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., one of them did one of them invent Ava? Someone they knew, or one of the agents made Ava. Oh, that's right. This guy was not an agent that made Ava, but he was. It's been a while, but he was like involved with the agents, and don't get sidetracked. So the agents' lives as agents are going along, like all of the cast, right? They have their stories and their subplots in the whole Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. story. And then their lives start doing other things. Like, they totally change, and I remember thinking, wow, that's unexpected, and oh, I didn't want that to end. Why did that end? That had no, like, why is it ending? That doesn't make sense. Why? Like, I was just like, what? Something is wrong with this. And it went on for a while before I finally realized, wait a minute. I don't think this is real. I don't think, like, what I'm seeing here, what's happening with these people is, like, part of their actual reality. And then, like, but it was just a passing thought, because there wasn't really, I mean, maybe there was. I don't always catch stuff on the first pass. Maybe there was, like, a big arrow saying, hey, this is not their real lives. Like, something is amiss here. But I didn't catch it right away. It was just a passing thought, and I was just like, huh, and then went right back to watching it, and just, like, didn't really, like, give it much, like, I didn't think it was important. Like, I didn't think it was, like, a meaningful thought. Like, I don't know. But later on in the story, the people in these, like, fake lives begin to realize, hey, the same thing I was just saying. And what's happened is that Ava has deceived everyone and gotten them in this thing called the Framework that she's made. And the whole time that all of these, like, sort of weird off-kilter lives, or, life stories started to play out, it's because she had them, like, in these, I want to say, pods, I guess, but they were just kind of like, there are a couple of amusement park rides that have you standing, and then you're on, like, some kind of, like, foot pad thing or platform, and you're, like, you're backed up against something. So this is not that, except for the standing upright on something, like being propped up in, I don't think they were tubes. They might have had, like, a clear thing that came down and enclosed them, but basically it was like being strapped to a gurney upright. They were restrained, is what I'm getting at. And then how she kept them in the Framework, I think she must have been drugging them or something. So eventually, they begin to realize that they're in there, and then they have to, like, claw their way through all of this subterfuge and fake stuff, dramas and things that are just, not only are they not real in the stories inside the story, just like all of these layers of distractions and crap, and oh, I like this, so your mind is immediately taken away from, wait, something's wrong here, oh wait, chocolate or squirrel, you know what I mean? Like, we're susceptible to that. We're easily distracted. So boy, ain't that the truth. So eventually they get out of it, but that was the part of it that's important, is that they're like locked into all of these scenarios, and they're sort of realizing like something's not quite right, but it's so real and so textured that they're just not quite, like, it's hard to dig out of it. Like, if you just have a delusion and you're not strapped to anything or on a hallucinogen, forced drugging, none of that. Like, sometimes we just don't pick up on the stuff that's like, this ain't right away. Like, it just, we miss it on the first pass or two. So that was on my mind. And then always on my mind is these stories that I didn't have stories for them until or maybe I had some of it, but it wasn't until I met the QAnons that they sort of like introduced a narrative that fit kind of what I was seeing. Like, I always just kind of felt, well, not always, I began to feel at some point that, like, the government that we have, like, I felt like somebody's like ahead, over them, like above those people, directing them to control us, because pretty much every institution is some kind of way to grab us, get us together, get our minds on a thing, and then like that's our deal. And so you have MAGA, and then you have like whatever the Democratic or lefty equivalent is, but it's like types of music, sports, art, like everything has like it's people that are like devoted to it, and that's their thing. And I don't know, it's like, but it's all kind of like, man, that like is not important. Like, being a sports fan, it's nice to enjoy it, but it just trips me out when it becomes people's whole lives, and they plaster themselves with all of the merch and the memorabilia, and I'm like, yeah, but you're paying hundreds of dollars to go watch these people give each other brain damage or like destroy each other's bodies, and yeah, you're putting so much money and energy into this thing, and it's not even like you're just watching. You are to buy that stuff. They're doing it so they can sell you the stuff. I mean, that's how it feels like to me. And there's so many things like that. Oh, and religion, don't get me started. I think we all have had at least an inkling of like, man, these guys are not truthful and hypocritical. Like, there's a history. You can see, like, how did we start worshiping the church as it is? Because especially including history and what we don't know up to the present, I just don't think that there was any incentive for them to get better. I think there was incentive for them to get more sly at hiding. And why are they hiding so much? What the hell is up with that? Like, what? You have stuff about the whole world that just you guys decided no one else could know about? That shit drives me crazy. Who are you to hide stuff from everybody else? It's not even your stuff, you fussy little man in a dress. I'm not going to get started. That's enough. But you see what I mean. They present one thing in one way, but you know that things are being hidden from you, and you also know that they are completely like the antithesis in some cases, too many, of what they preach. It's crazy. And then, but we just are all, so that's okay, never mind, we'll just go along with it anyway. But, you know, that is not as much of a thing as it used to be. And the idea of it, like, I don't mean to sound like I'm dogging churches and religion and that, but that is not real. It is a framework that they've laid concepts on, and it's just that thing where if it gets repeated enough times, or it just gets repeated enough times because they know this, then people will just relent and start believing because, you know, they can't take it. And then people need certain things. Like, I may not need religion or football, but I have some other thing that, you know, I'm all into. But hopefully not. Try not to, like, give over everything of myself to any one thing, because that's not healthy. That's everything in moderation, you know? That's the way to go. So this is like a religion adjacent adjacent thing to, like, the unreality of the framework type situations. And that is, it comes from, like, the religious thing of the Bible, and it is like the Luciferian agenda. And then that's got its whole, like, God, what is the word? It's like its own whole thing. It's got, like, the opposite of God. It's got, like, the demons, so they're the opposite of the angels. And, you know, the whole thing with Lucifer is that he didn't get his way one time, and then, like, forever after getting kicked out of heaven for not following the rules, like a disobedient teenager gets kicked out of the house, and he's just gonna take it out on his works forever. Like, everything you do, I'm gonna poop on and pee on and make terrible. And, like, if you're gonna believe that stuff, that started happening right away. And so, like, way long ago, whenever that was supposed to have happened, that's when we started being influenced, allegedly. I'll just say, or it's said that. We're not a court of law here, but this is what the Bible basically says, is that its mission, Lucifer's mission, was to just make us bad and evil and do evil things and make, like I said, crap on creation because God made it. Like, that's the thing, like, pissy teenager devil guy. And, oh, you're gonna have that, then I'm gonna have my version of that. And you know what that sounds like? That sounds like talking to a MAGA person. Because, like, they'll say some crazy shit, or Trump will say some crazy shit, or they'll do some crazy shit, and then somebody on the left in the news that they claim is fake, that, you know, no one pays attention to except Trump totally does. Don't watch it, it's fake news, but he watches it all the time and talks to them about it. And it just goes, phew. Yeah, he's sitting around watching the fake news all the time. So your leader does the thing that he tells you not to do, and you don't see nothing wrong with that? And that's, like, kind of the whole deal. But it's not always, like, a bad person influencing you to do stuff. But they will, man. Like, you know, they started... Well, okay, here's an easy example of a weird thing. It's weird that that's such a big deal to them. So many of them are just, like, so mad that they can't defend themselves against it. Like, they try to, and it just, still the people calling them weird are just all, nope, still weird. And it drives them nuts. But they're trying to be all doing it back like, you guys are weird. You have this, that, and the other thing. And so, like, J.D. Vance and the couch. I guess the couch thing wasn't real. It's not in his book, I guess. I haven't read it, don't plan to. And it just became a joke or a meme, I guess now is the way everything has to be expressed. But it just became a joke, like in the sort of public square. And then people just kept taking it further and twisting it more. And it's like, but everyone was always in on the fact that it was not real. And it was, well, not everyone knew it wasn't real, I guess, at first, but you really thought that was real? That is pathetic. Well, I don't know. People, I guess there are people that, like, have a thing for objects, but I don't want to get sidetracked on that stuff, but so it became a big thing, and they were getting laughed at, and on the right, and so they had to come up with something terrible about somebody on the left. So Tampon Tim. Okay, yeah, but you're trying too hard, and that's when come up with your own joke works a lot better. I'm telling you, but they don't listen to something like that. They listen to Trump. And I am like, have you heard him talk lately? Like, literally speak? People are just letting that go by, too. Like, they jumped all over everything Joe Biden said wrong, but the man has a stutter, which I don't really hear much, but I do know, because there are stutterers in my family, of the pauses that they'll take to get their tongue in order, I guess, so the stuttering doesn't happen. And that's what I saw. And although I was one of the ones way back going, this dude is sundowning, he should not be president. Talk about Biden. And they say I think now they're more open to say that. Like, they already said that after a certain hour in the evening, he just rambles. He can't, like, hold a thought. And that's what happens with, God, I'm not obviously a doctor. I don't know if it's obvious, but I'm not a doctor. But I do know a little bit about the symptoms, and they do get, like, trapped in these loops, and yeah, they'll just ask you the same question. Like, they'll run through the whole bit of conversation that they can remember, which would be like I'm thinking of a particular person, but there was like a set of questions that would happen. There wasn't a whole lot of them, and then you be right back at the beginning. And so, like, I guess I know what that looks like, and the difference, like, throughout the day, it is real. So I mean, understandably, you want someone that doesn't have that, because things will happen after hours. But also, the only thing that was at all reassuring about it was that the president doesn't do everything. They delegate a lot, so it wasn't that disturbing. And then also, I'm well aware of how many presidents we had that were, like, sort of propped up there, but nobody was home, and the people behind them, spouses and cabinet members and so on, were the ones doing the work of the president on their behalf, and I mean, we're still here. I'm sure we're not the only country that has this in their history. But anyway, so I mentioned that part about the Luciferian agenda, because there's, like, so many things that make you go, maybe there's something to that. And I'm maybe not like the actual Lucifer thing. I know I had this whole story about how it started and all that, But I also think maybe that's not quite the way things went down. Like, whatever it is, we probably have not been told the 100% truth about any of it. Because if you know the history of the Bible, or even if you don't know the history, if you know that it was written like hundreds of years after, like, Jesus was born, for one thing, or whatever came into being, you just know that the book has been around a long time, and it's probably been edited and such to reflect the times, or reflect the leaders of the times. And so, well, if you didn't know, it's been edited to death. And I don't know, it's like not what it's, how could it be what it says it is if it keeps getting revised constantly, and it's revision through the filters of men, like, I don't know, it's just been messed with. So I don't think it's like totally reliable. And also, okay, so like I've said, like, I don't think there's like a physical devil man guy. There definitely, I think, energies out there, and sort of beings that are not visible to us in every way, but I'd say they have an advantage over us because they can see and sense and manipulate matter and things, and most of us can't do that. So when it happens around us, we're like, oh my god, okay, it's this, it's that. You're kind of scared witless, and you don't know what to think, and what you do have to think regarding stuff like this has probably come out of, like, the Bible. So I don't know, question authority always. And then there's like the spirit of that does, we do get influenced, and maybe it is those beings that are opportunist, and we have provided a framework that they can access once they can, like, read minds. Those, everything but Earth people mostly are telepathic. There's animals are telepathic. We're not. We're like, hey, like, we gotta get a megaphone and holler at each other, and we don't even barely notice just like stuff that happens around us that's right in front of our face, and we just are not noticing it or not seeing it, and we're conditioned not to. We don't get taught a lot of things, so that we can't be powerful in our own right. And to me, that's part of a Lucerian agenda, is that some people, like, it's going to be the rich people, have control over all this information and stuff that they use to control everybody else, so they can, like, have fun and play games with everybody else. I don't like that. So, and then things happen to support this. Like, the church is a big one. The church has so much that I could, like, go to about those things. They have the information and they hide it. And some of it is rumored to be just insanely, like, magic and stuff that some corners of the church would say that's evil, don't do it. But you know what? They do, I bet. They use the techniques, and they also, like, I think with their reasoning that they give for having all of this information is a sort of a know your enemy type thing. But, like, then you know your enemy and start, like, doing what the enemy does. So, okay. Things that happen that just tell you they're this. The Diddy thing, that it just started coming up legal again. I was just saying not too long ago, I haven't been talking about it for a while because the investigation was happening, and I assumed it was going to take years before we'd know anything, because federal investigations take a long time. But they indicted him and he's in jail for the stuff and the investigation. Here's the thing that none of us knew, but I was right. They had been investigating him for 10 years before they started raiding him. 10 years. Think of the entirety of that. Like, what have they been looking at, studying, and taking for their evidence to present in court? Like, wow. So, but it came out that the stuff that Diddy was doing, like the after parties, the scary, dangerous part, the greasy, druggy, gross, slippery part, the locked doors and the captive part, and oh my God, the forced intercourse with the commercial sex workers stuff, like. And then, okay, if you were watching on the internet when the house in California got raided in Holmby Hills, then there was like footage about how close it was to Playboy Mansion, which is one of those places that is not good. Like, you go there and you think that you're getting seen and you're gonna like further your career, but there they just want you to be a career hooker, basically. And I don't know how you didn't get that from the whole be naked, take a picture naked. That's never like art. That's not what it was ever about. Like, it was just such bull. And then women went there and got into it, and some of them were like, I can survive in this snake pit, but it ate people alive to be there and to be a part of that organization and a Playboy bunny. And sorry, Hefner family, if that's insulting, but, and I'm not saying you're doing it now. I don't know what the hell is going on over there now, and nor do I care to, because of the history. Hi, Secrets of Playboy on the A&E network. Check it out. It's gross. I can only watch. There was more than one season. I was like, there's more of this garbage? I'm not watching more of this. This is like damaging my brain. And I'm sure it was way worse for the people, the women that went there. I mean, what they said about the late Jim Brown, just, I was so horrified, but not surprised, because everything's our fault, women. Just, it's our fault. I don't even know what the hell they're talking about, but it's our fault. So, nothing holy going on over there at the Playboy Mansion, and that was just an underground tunnel away, a brief foray into, if what I saw was said about was in those tunnels, which I've heard of, like sacrifices and ceremonies and rituals that involve, it's like the eyes wide closed thing, and it's like dotted all over everywhere. So it's right there. And then I guess Diddy himself is all, yeah, well, we worship the devil. And Gene Deal knew about it, knew they were worshiping the devil. At least he said in an interview that he was into that devil worship stuff. I heard him say those words in one of the many interviews that I watched that he did. But it sounds like it. It's got the gross sex, the cruelty, the like just pain that they're forcing on people, like physical pain and mental pain. And yeah, he's got a family and he's got a wife. Like, most people have those things because you're in the world where it's normal to do that, and then you go someplace where you're not with other normal people, quote unquote normal, I guess, and you have your secret groups and your entrapment so that you can't go talking about it. It's like better than an NDA, because the man had cameras everywhere and microphones everywhere and would just invite everyone, like, come to the party. And man, if you were foolish enough to get in there, not good. But, you know, And this is not up to me, but I feel like more to come to be continued. And so then, yeah, like my viewing bounced all over the place today. And then it was talking about how the royal family in England, like Queen Elizabeth's family, is part of this whole messed up thing. The Luciferian also agenda, but also the beyond rich elite that literally rule the world, like Rothschilds with the financial institutions that they basically invented the practice of in the modern era, where they had like locations worldwide of their banking institutions. And so, money controls everything, but that gave that family a lot of power. And you hear their name come up, like especially with the QAnons, they hate them. And it's like, they were Jewish, so I guess because of them, all Jews rule money and control the world. And I know that's not, they don't share with all Jews. I know that's not the truth. Well, anyway, like that's just like some weird shit. But then you remember, like, oh wait, wasn't Prince Harry supposedly at those Diddy parties? Like, I don't think he was in regular attendance, but I don't know. I guess he was publicly seen there at least once, and supposedly he didn't take part in anything weird. But if his family is part of that thing, and then Prince Albert, what the hell's up with that guy? Is that the one? The prince, God, that was at Epstein Island. And there's another thing, like that guy was like talking about having festivals on the island in the name of a demon. It's like it's right in front of your face. So I tend to think that there's something to that. And they have their own whole framework, like supposedly people can be cloned and put their souls be put in another body. And I saw not that long ago, a couple of months ago, a video supposedly of someone doing that, but the person doing it was an ET or an extra dimensional. They were not human, but there was like a film of it or an animation. I don't know what the hell I was looking at. And then I have like this psychic that he actually like works in and amongst Hollywood. So being a psychic, he must have a sense of some of that stuff being like just rotten and evil. Nickelodeon documentary about the children's shows, more like that's what collects around that agenda. And so the psychic, I would think he has a sense of that, but he will also say that no, there's no clones. And so, okay, he probably has a better sense of it than I do, because his sense is more powerful than mine, that's for sure. And like I said, he's involved. I'm not exactly sure what his sort of career thing that he does. I know it's not to be a psychic in Hollywood. Like he had like a job like people have that they just go to and put in the hours that they hate or love. I don't know, maybe people like it. But anyway, I don't give like 100% of my belief to him, because I don't always think he's right about everything, but I think he's right about most of it. But then here's the thing. So these people always look good, they live long, and maybe it's not putting your soul into a new body, but maybe it's having the technology and the knowledge to maintain the body you have, which if we do that correctly, this is what I got from Cryon. You can check this. We're actually meant to live for like hundreds of years. People used to live hundreds of years. But you think there's a record of that? No. Because that would involve us knowing things about our body and energy that would maintain that, and like what to put in and what not to put in. And here in America, where we eat stuff that's banned in other countries. Well, we're just like the petri dish petri dish experiment. And just like, how fucked up can we make the human form? Ha ha ha, and make money on it. And why are they still interested in making money? Like, that's like the most interesting thing you rich people can do is make money? Boring, my God. You just have a bunch of crap. You can't use more than one house at a time. You can only be in one place at a time. I mean, it's just, I understand, like, the desire to have better things for yourself and have, like, more for yourself, but they're like the ultimate addicts, and it's never enough, and people end up getting sucked into their crap, and so what I'm getting all upset about, instead of leading up to it, is that I came across this video about this woman, and she, like, rules so much, and it's like, I think it's a global reach. I'm going to link the video that I saw, but it was, and she's not even, it's like she's at the head of a lot of things, and then she has bosses too, and it was like part of the Luciferian families, and they raise these witches, and the people have like abilities, like psychic abilities, or to some degree, or they train them and bring them out in people. Like, they know all of the stuff that they keep away from the masses, because if the masses had the same power, then they wouldn't be able to, like, make slaves of us, basically, and, you know, control, well, our lives, basically. And I know that all sounds crazy, but we're sure, of course it sounds crazy, because we're not meant to even think that way, because, again, that would be giving us power they don't want us to have. Like, they don't want us to know stuff. They don't want us to have working senses so that we can feel like this person means to do something bad to me, you know? Oh my goodness, I can see this coming. Like, so much stuff. And I think that's, I mean, I don't know how clear that is, because I'm starting to understand that not everyone sees this stuff the way I'm noticing it. And I think that's conditioning too. So they just have had, well, my God, centuries, apparently, according to what I saw, to learn to control humans. And then, like, you have the modern stuff, like the Majestic 12 program, which is like a mind control program that I don't know that they ever stopped doing, to be honest. Because what about those Trump shooters? Like, isn't it weird how, like, there's something weird about both of them? And the people that I met that had that done to them could be switched on remotely, and I know they were, at least one of them was working to dislodge it, and man, he was like going through some stuff. I stopped watching him because I came across him on YouTube, and we didn't have like conversations, but we had a little bit of back and forth. And then he started getting weird. I've talked about it before. He started saying that he was God, and I don't know, like, usually when people start saying that, from what I heard, that's like schizophrenia. But I don't know, like, having your mind messed with that way could also, like, maybe send you there. Like, again, not a doctor. Oh, so I just don't know. But the point is this, nothing, again, like I keep saying this, nothing is what it appears to be. There's always something in the background that there's something in front of the real thing that's in the background. Always. Like, even with us, we can't just be honest with each other. We're always, for some reason, holding something back, even if we're being honest. So I feel like something always gets held back. But that's just me, just a thought. So I pulled some cards. I didn't know where the heck they were gonna go. I actually still don't. And why is my shoulder hurting right now so bad? Why? Why? Okay, so from the Shaman's Dream Oracle deck, first card I pulled was number 5. Completion is the subtitle. 5 for change. So, yeah, closing door. So, outside of all of that other stuff I was talking about, oh my god, I didn't even finish. Ow, jeez, really? Talking about one other thing that sort of played into, well, 2 actually. So hold on the cards. I'm just gonna hold off on that. But I've been watching this show called Archive 81, and it is about this guy who gets a job restoring video cassette tapes, and it's in, I think, New York State, upper New York State, New York State, like it's woodsy, wherever this place is. And it looks like it was like a big facility, and it's deserted, and it's got like old stuff, but functional stuff. So it's not like the most modern equipment. And this is in like the 80s, I think. Maybe like the early 90s that the show takes place in. Or 80. It's called Archive 81, so maybe it's 1981. It's back. It's 30 years old. I know that much. So anyway, this guy gets this job, and his boss is like weird. I don't know. He ends up knowing a lot of stuff that the guy Dan, who gets the job, ends up finding out later that he knew stuff about, but he didn't share with Dan. But he was like giving Dan part information, like, here, look, because there's stuff in the videos that sort of makes a lie out of what this guy tells him. And since the videos need to be restored, I'm sitting there going, over the course of the show, and I think I've only watched like 3 or 4 episodes of it. Seems like the episodes are really long. It's just very confusing. And so, since the videos need to be restored, like they're really damaged, you can see they're like melted or dirty or whatever, and the guy has to like take them apart and literally hand clean the tape in there. So probably the guy that he works for, this guy that doesn't tell him much, knows, you feel like he knows what's on the tapes, but how could he have seen them? I guess he could have seen them before they were damaged, but that kind of doesn't make sense either. So the guy starts watching these tapes, and he discovers a story of this woman who is doing like a videography something for, she says it's for school, and she's searching for her mother, because she was like abandoned at a church or something, and she's searching for her mother. It's a psychology class, I think. So she's always got this camcorder, and she's trying to track down her mother, and ends up at this place called the Visser Apartments. And in there, it's just like strange. Like first she goes in, and it seems like no one's there, and she's like knocking on doors, and no one's answering at all, and you're like, what the heck's up with that? And then gradually she starts meeting people. So I'll just like try to skip forward. Like I said, I think I'm only on like episode 2 or 3, and it's already severely convoluted. But in the building, there are all these eccentric people, of course. And the first one she meets is a girl, and I think she's like 15 or something. And she's sort of like the girl Friday for the building. And a lot of the people don't go out much. And I think that's a New York thing where you sort of Instacart everything or Uber Eats everything. But that was her job. She would just like run errands for everyone in the building, and so she knew everybody and knew stuff. And so this woman in the video is asking everybody in the building if they know this name. That was her mother, and everyone's like, no, 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 no. And so, turns out it's like kind of a cult. It's very strange. First thing, the supervisor tells her, you stay away from the 6th floor. And she's like, but what if I have to go there? Because normally you live in an apartment building and they're not telling you to not go places in the building, like, and then not tell you why you can't go there. So that happened, and of course she has to go there because it's in the script. Because yeah, she's definitely one of those curiosity killed the cat type people, and eventually she gets into the apartment of this one woman who said she lived with her beloved sister, and then she lost her sister, and then another person is like, not her sister, it was her lover. It was like the 40s. You couldn't, and so that was like a thing that you get. And then the surviving lady is very rich, very manipulative, only like says stuff when it serves her, and definitely well, she does a weird thing, like she's gonna do the European two-side kiss, but it seems like she just goes up and like smells you to see if you're acceptable. But I got the feeling that it was like some sort of psychic thing. So she has like seances at her apartment and soirees or whatever with the other apartment dwellers, and one neighbor says, well, don't go in the community room because that's where they have sex parties. And so, of course, this woman with the video camera has to go there. And she goes there, and everyone's there, including the eccentric woman, Cassandra, the rich woman, with the sister wife, whatever thing. And she's like this art, what do you call that, gives money, patron. She's patron of the arts. And so anyway, a bunch of the tenants are in this community room in the building, and video cam girl, what's her name? We'll just go with that. Video cam girl is watching them from behind the just stuff that was stored in the room, like a chalkboard on wheels type thing. And they are sitting in the folding chairs. It almost looks like an AA meeting, except it's not in a circle. It's set up more like a, bleachers type situation, but it's chairs. Or like a theater viewing type situation, rows of seats. And in front of them is like a box with some sort of little sculpture in it, and it looks very trolly and gargoyle-y and scary, and they're like sitting there humming some sort of sound that's can be heard all throughout the building, and then they start like doing some kind of weird breathing thing, and then I don't know, like everybody just gets up and leaves. So you're like anticlimactical, but then two of the tenants of the building, one of whom had been heavily flirting with video camera girl, who's now hiding in a different room watching these people, because people keep walking in because she's not even supposed to be there. She's not been invited, and so she's sneaking around. So she's hiding in yet another room, and these two people come in, and one guy, who it turns out later is the brother of the guy at the place in the future where the man is studying the videotapes. So a time travel element eventually is introduced. But it turns out that she goes to a seance at the eccentric woman's apartment, and there's a medium there, and she asks her about her mom, and she doesn't get anything about the woman at all. Like, no, and everyone keeps saying that they never heard of her, but it was her last known address. And so I'm kind of getting ahead of where it was in the story, but at the seance, the psychic starts repeating back a conversation that video camera girl has had with Dan. And in video camera girl's time, Dan is 8 years old, but in the show's time, Dan is like in his 30s. So, and so he's looking at the videos, and it's so weird. Like, he ends up finding out his father's her psychiatrist, video camera girl. What the hell is her name? Hold on. I'm sure I can think of everyone's name but hers. Hold on a second here. I will just look it up real quick. So, but in this like weird time dilation, whatever mix that's happening, hold on. Melody, that's her name. So yeah, Melody ends up meeting Dan like in some kind of weird dream state, but somehow they like psychically connect over time, and like the videos triggered it because he's watched a bunch of them, and then they began having conversations in this weird dream space, and it's like in her time she'll be like getting visions of him. Like one time she's getting dressed and all of a sudden he's there, she can see his reflection in the mirror, and she whips around and he's not behind her. It's just like, what? Damn it, what happened? Her, I think that was her reaction. So that was happening, and then back to the seance. So at the seance, the medium starts repeating back the conversation that they'd had in the dream, and it's not until later that you find out that she hadn't remembered what was said. She knew she had the dreams, and she remembered his name. And then she learns that this Dan is her psychiatrist's son. And he's telling her, get out of the building, you get killed in a fire, you have to get out of that building. And so, back to the building, the Cassandra and like everybody else is part of this cult, and they're like witches. And then I'm back to like, oh, the witches from the royal family and the Luciferians, where those, and they're their own kids and stuff, they are put through like these rituals and abuses and sacrifices. It's just like sex weird stuff, and like these are their kids, and then they go out and like run this weird secret society that like runs the world. I know everything I'm saying is getting all mixed together, but that's what I said at the beginning. Like nothing was like totally crystal clear here. It was gonna be a ramble. And so those two connections were overlapping and not making a whole lot of sense, but kind of meaningful. And then after that, I watched a show that was sort of a review, although really what they did was just explain the whole plot. So I ended up turning it off before it was over. But there's a show called Late Night and the Devil, and it's about a fictional talk show that was competing with Carson back in time, Johnny Carson, who used to be the host of the Tonight Show. And that show has to do with the demon Abraxas, because on the show there's like a skeptic, which Carson used to have, I forget the guy's name, and then you have a psychic, Uri Geller, and the psychic and Uri Geller would like argue, and I don't think anybody was ever satisfied with the result of the arguments. I wasn't. And then, so still talking about the fictional show, and then this parapsychologist comes on, and she brings a girl who they said had been possessed, and but the way they say it, it's like she's still possessed, and it's supposed to be in the 70s, and the clothes are just like, oh my god, how horrible. I used to have to wear that crap. But if you want to know what I'm talking about, the possessed girl was dressed like Jan Brady. And I actually have not seen this show yet, but turns out the girl was possessed by Abraxas. Abraxas was also the demon in the Archive 81 show. Like, okay, there's some overlap. And yeah, I just am like, okay, I know that a 7 and a 10-year cycle have just ended, and there's all this, like, I mean, it just feels like it's kind of a real crazy time right now. And it's been building and building and building. But there were major changes, like when Biden went out of the nomination process or the campaign for the presidency, and just kind of allowed Kamala and Walz to take that position. So that time, like, of Biden's is done. Like, that cycle ended, and you know, we're moving to a new one. And one thing I learned over the course of the summer, to go back to this what we don't know and what's hidden from us thing, and also sort of aligns with that Diddy, like, filming everybody thing, including some politicians, evidently. So what I had seen was that, well, okay, that everybody that's in government, to get in there, you have to go through that sort of thing, like with Diddy, like the humiliation entrapment thing, if you want to be a politician. And it's hard to think that, like, that's true of, like, every sort of area where there's, like, success, and, like, supposedly it was musicians, like with the Diddy thing, that's what that is about. Yeah, there's a whole thing. If you, like, don't know what I'm talking about with the Diddy stuff, there's a YouTube channel called Celebrity Lounge. Watch that. That'll tell you pretty much everything that I've been saying, and then also I'm sure it'll, like, you know, branch off into some other stuff about that. So evidently, to get in government or to become a famous actor, musician, whatever, anything where you start getting noticed and fame, and have the, I guess, resources to manipulate masses of people, there's going to be someone coming in to do that humiliation entrapment ritual, so they can control you, so that you can control your minions to do what they want, not what you want. So I know it sounds crazy, I didn't make it up. And so I think, wow, number 58 card, ego sublimation. You basically are destroying yourself for this thing that you wanted, which, remember back at the beginning, like the football and the stars and the whoever is huge that you follow for whatever reason, I can never look at people now and know. Sterling will say, like, a bunch of this is not true, so it makes it even more difficult. But something happens because there's too many stories about it, there's too many people talking about, there's too many things that point to it, and more is coming out. But imagine you want it that bad where you're just like, I'll do the bad thing, the terrible thing to get it, because that's what you do, that's what's done. And I think that when you humiliate yourself in a way, if that's what's humiliating for you, because maybe for some people it isn't. For some people it's just like, fine, that's the cost of doing living, or the cost of doing business. What the hell am I even saying? The cost of doing living. Well, maybe it's that too in some cases, but and it's weird that it's ego sublimation, because you literally, like, you you have this big ego thing that you want to go do this thing because your big old ego, and you just have to, like, just do this thing that'll totally crush your soul out of existence to be a star. I don't know, like, that's a weird thing. Like, why do you gotta take that toll out of people? And who the hell are you anyway to do that? Why mess with the beauty of creation? But there's that Luciferian thing. That's exactly what they would do it for. And then, like, getting ahead of myself. So, next card I pulled was number 9, Dances on One Foot, Balancing Act. You know, you're going to see this too, and you might see it on, like, there's a channel called Club Shay Shay, or I think that might be the channel. But I'm sure if you put that into a search bar, you'll get the show I'm talking about. And you'll see on there a lot of, regarding that Diddy crap, a lot of conversations with Cat Williams. And has made a lot of speeches about how he resisted the temptation, which is an interesting turn of phrase when you're talking about Luciferian agendas, but it kind of plays into the whole thing, right? Like, the framework is just there. But do we see it? So, okay. You sublimated your ego to do this, and then here's Cat Williams, like, calling people out, like, why don't you just say something? Like, why are you doing it? Like, you want it that bad? It's like, you wanted it that bad. You had the fortitude to say no. Not everyone does. And so his thing is, he's all mad at the people that can't nut up, I guess, the way he can, and just come out and say this, that, and the other thing, or say no to the temptation because you want to have that future, that thing that maybe you worked for forever, or that you just wanted so long. Regardless, the thing that Williams has a problem with these people about is that they haven't said anything. So goes to what I was just saying, like, I don't know how to look at these people anymore if this stuff is true, because they gotta be tap dancing themselves in their lives, in their minds, and in front of everybody else, scared to death that someone's gonna find out about this stuff. And not just the people that you would feel humiliated behind doing this stuff, like, you want people to know that this is you on top of, like, they think you're, like, fill in the blank favorite star, and then they find out these other things, like baby oil and lubricant with Diddy. That's all I'm saying. But so yeah, and I think it's kind of screwed up that Cat Williams comes after these people, because they're not coming after him. They're not, like, they got their own problems. They're not all, like, I don't know. He can say whatever he wants to say, and he's not wrong about stuff, but I mean, I think I agree with stuff, some of it, of what he's saying, but who the hell does he think he is to come after these people that are already probably feeling inside bad enough about what they've done? And then it's probably hard to come out and have this in the back of your head, and then also someone else you probably know is talking a bunch of crap about it. It's probably all very difficult, and then you have the difficulties of the career on top of all of that other stuff. So I just feel like, damn, dude, get off people's neck. Like, good for you, but shut up. Like, that is not like righteous, I don't think, to like be all, I'm better than them because of this, and they're stupid and get out of here and berate. Like, no, dummy, that's not the way. You're missing the point. Like, good for you for getting it right, but you want to have compassion for those that didn't get it right like you did. Like, what is wrong with you? They're suffering. Sorry, getting emotional. So, the next card I pulled was 60, and it is the Watchers. And the subtitle is transpersonal. God, I couldn't even say that. Transpersonal. You know, the thing that's getting me about this is that there is a biblical, historical element to this Watcher business. And that is that there's a story that some angels were just left forever to watch and see how we do, how everything plays out with us. And, you know, it's real hard to think about how that works inside of this framework that I'm thinking of, because on the one hand, if there are Watchers and they are here because of the biblical story, they already screwed up, though, the Watchers, because they, I think, got with their, like, they are part of the people that made the Elohim, which was the angels coming and mating with the humans, which they weren't supposed to be doing. And so the children, through no fault of their own, they end up coming out like kind of bad, kind of evil, kind of screwed up, because maybe those recipe ingredients weren't intended to mix. Like, they knew they weren't. They knew they were doing a thing they weren't supposed to do. This is the Bible story, though. So, I mean, they're still there watching. They're still charged with the job, even though they totally fucked up. Like, I'm so confused. What are you talking about, religion? You do what you want with that, because the Watchers, they're still watching. Like, the story has not come to an end, you know? And we ain't gonna know, like, the story of this stuff until everything comes to an end. Assuming it's a thing, actually. So confusing. And so, that's funny. I feel like this card for me right now. But it happens all the time. I feel like it's like the beginning, like starting another cycle, starting my own cycle. Like, every time I kind of get to the end of my rope with this stuff, or anything resembling the situation in life, because of course there are many similar situations that I can attribute to this stuff. And I just get to a point where I'm like, I don't know what to do with it anymore. I have to, like, I give up. It's just like a matter, like, you just have to wait and see. And then I also think, like, and if it's all like a real thing, then you just have to act as if. And so that leaves me also like this, because then I have like this information, like, this stuff is happening. And then what are we supposed to do? You just fake it till you make it, I guess. And there is a dancing woman in here, but I want to say that she's some sort of like a medicine woman or something, because the makeup reminds me of like war paint, kind of. I'm interested in the way her body is so indistinct, and she's in, like, it seems to be the solar system. I don't know what that is. Good. This is what her arms are doing, right? but it seems like a dance. Not like it could be running, but it seems like a dance. But it also is like the fuzziness of her body is touching all of these planets. And I don't know if they're doing it to her or she's doing something to them. I don't know. She's getting her stuff all over all the planets. Like, I don't know what... I'm not sure I understand that. I'm just going to pin that for the moment. And then the last card I pulled was number 6. The Cosmic Womb, Divine Feminine. And this... You can see there's a heart in there. It's making me think of white quartz for some reason. Or, sorry, rose quartz. But the cosmic womb, it's sort of like the source of everything, I guess. Starting with the planets. The subtitle is The Divine Feminine. I feel like it's the only thing that can save us from all of this other business that I was talking about that's so unclear and cloudy and on purpose. Like, the forces that be, I feel like, don't want us to know, which way is up, like, they just want us confused and tired, and all of our emotions are always like inflamed all of the time, and it's not just us reacting with each other. It is like the chemicals in the water and the food and the poisoned places from the nuclear weapons that they've tested here on Earth. Or like, those are a bad idea. And here's why the aliens shut them off, just so you know. They turn them off because when they explode here, they don't just have the horrible nuclear half-life, which makes it sound like a short time, but it's just never going to be clean while, like, any of us alive now are still going to be around to see it, unless we learn how to live hundreds of years again. It's kind of hard with all of the poison stuff that I just mentioned, and so they shut the nukes off, not just to protect us, but apparently it damages the next dimensions over. So it's not, it's crazy to me that we would set that off at all, knowing what it does. And then we went ahead and did it, so now we know for sure what happens when you set those things off. And it's bad, and it's like, we still are like, those are our go-to weapons. Like, we'll really fuck you up, we'll set that off. Like, no, you're gonna mess us all up, you dummy. What are you talking about? So, yeah, it's like permeated our whole world. And guess what? It permeated the other next door dimensions. And we're not in talks with them, and they'd probably be like, what are you idiots doing if they were talking to us? Like, we would maybe have problems with them. We maybe do have problems with them, but we don't know how to detect that. Because, I mean, so much is whacked out. I always just try to stick to the United States, but it's not like I'm not aware of the rest of the world. They're having their stuff too. They're having their issues too, and in a lot of the other places, like I said, they banned a lot of the stuff that we allow in this country, our people to consume and live around, and why don't we care? But yeah, so the ETs like knows stuff that we are not particularly aware of, or if we are aware of it, we don't care. It's like, that's a problem. Like, we don't care, that's a problem. We only care about ourselves. That's damaging. We have for a really long time gone with this whole sort of masculine scenario situation, and I don't even know if anybody knows why men and women would have a problem with each other anymore. And also, it's time to get over it. It's, I feel like, damaging us along with the other stuff. It like inspires us to damage each other. We have this culture where we're so against each other, certain ones of us, men and women and races and Caucasians and straights and all the other things that sexuality can be. It's like, we can't just like be thrilled about this stuff, be interested in it, like happy about it. Like, we gotta hate everything and cancel it and get rid of it and end it and own it and we live. It's like all of this, like, I'm sorry, but there's like man crap. And the sad thing is that we're not all like just one thing inside. We have it's pretty well known that we have like a masculine and a feminine sides to us, inside of us, you know, like depending on who we are and what we're about, they will reflect from the inside out or not. Like, you just, sometimes you just don't know because things are never what they appear to be. And there is, I think, the resurgence of the divine feminine happening because it really is, I mean, I hate to take it to such a basic level, but it really is time for mommy to come in and clean up the mess. Like, people are not behaving well, like they either need a hug or a timeout or something, but mama's got to take care of it. And it's like we have all taken part in kind of damaging our world, which is also a feminine being, and it wants us to do well, not just because we're on her doing hurtful things to each other, which I'm sure hurts her, but also to her. And there's this really odd thing that goes along with the not hating and the not loving and the not caring and the not having compassion. And the selfish thing is strange too, because you have so many people that like want to be that way, self-serving, to the point where it's like hurtful and damaging to the people around you, on a personal scale small, or on like the scale of the rich people that just gotta have everything and more of it, and they don't care how assed out everyone else is, even though they'll bitch and complain about the poor people and how shabby they make their world and stuff. It's like, well, you know, you're here too, playing a part in this, so don't act like it's just everything is everybody else's fault. And that's a problem. We don't want to take responsibility for, like, if you're not taking responsibility, let's just kind of go for the whole across the board. It's not getting taken. What is the time there? Okay. This tells me that it needs to have balance again. And we need to allow in the divine feminine in us and on a larger scale as an organism, because otherwise we are damaging the organism that we feed on and live on. And it's not healthy to damage yourself or other people. Like, we know this. We know it's an aberration in our behavior, and it's, I mean, unless we've been fed crack through the womb, we generally don't come out hateful. We come out loving and nice. There would be exceptions, but nurture, I think, is very powerful, and somehow we just started leaning into the more male. Sorry, but that's just how we define things. Don't take it out on me. But the more male aggressive, sort of unnurturing, unkind thing, like everything has to be about a warrior and a competition and a stronger and a, bigger and a better. Is like, not always. Everything doesn't have to be that way. Tiny things can be huge, like a COVID. So, I just feel like this is so light and where we need to go back to and reintegrate into our lives and our society. And look at how, like, the general tone of all of these cards is so dark. The color, they're all like such dark cards. And maybe the ages have gotten kind of dark again, and it's time to come back out of that into the light. Okay, I've talked enough. I don't think I really have a conclusion, except that I see a lot of things in the spiritual stuff I watch where they're like, no, you don't have to figure everything out. You don't have to get to the bottom of everything. Okay, I can't. I didn't. I won't. Well, not today. But I feel like, why did they have that whole show, that whole story arc on the Shield? That's not the only place that you would find that type of story where you're just like, oh my gosh, this has been a dream the whole time, or this wasn't real. This was a hallucination. You know what I'm saying? Like, one thing the ETs said that I latched onto a long time ago, and that is if they can't get a message to you, or they can always get a message to you, but it's got to be where you're looking, where you are. And for me, and not just me, a lot of messages I get through media, and some of it will be like stuff that's not good for you, that's like garbage for your brain. But in there, throughout, there will be people who work on the productions that are like earth angels, and they'll put in the positive messages and they'll put in the reassuring messages so that we know it's not just all dismal and we should just give up because gloom and doom. And I feel like those little disclosures are there if we pick up on them. So, and then also, they wouldn't be there if the other things didn't exist to a degree. So I don't know, just feeling my way around this stuff. I'm not even sure what the heck I'm saying, but I'm saying something. Okay, thank you and good night.